We'll start with the Kansas City Chiefs, a team that are now undefeated, still 8-0 after beating the Tampa Bay Buccaneers on Monday Night Football. So, Brian, can the Kansas City Chiefs go this whole season undefeated?
Why not? They've made it this far. They should not be undefeated. They could have lost the first game of the season. They could have lost the second game of the season. This is a team that has found a way to win, and they just keep winning. And you throw in the fact that they have Patrick Mahomes, Travis Kelce, who continues to look like old, good Travis Kelce, Andy Reid. You have that stadium. You have the confidence. Oh, yeah, they've won back-to-back Super Bowls. They're going for the three-peat. Taylor Swift is in the suite, and she's not even that big of a deal anymore because this is just what happens with the Kansas City Chiefs. All they do is win. There is a game on their schedule that I could easily see them losing, but knowing the Chiefs still win that game, that's at Buffalo in a couple weeks. This is a Chiefs team that rivals the Lions for being the best team in the NFL. They can go to overtime. You think they're going to lose again, and they keep finding a way to win. And yeah, they added DeAndre Hopkins, and he had 2 touchdowns on Monday Night Football. It's always, I say this every week, it's always so hard to argue against, to pick against the Kansas City Chiefs.
Well, the game on Monday Night Football, Phoebe, it went to overtime. Todd Bowles, the Tampa Bay Buccaneers head coach, had the opportunity to go for 2. He didn't. He got that extra point, enabling it to go to overtime. But part of me kind of thinks, like, with the Chiefs, it just feels inevitable. You give them a chance. You give them a chance to go to overtime. You kind of, you know what's going to happen. They're going to win.
They are. I mean, we saw it in the Super Bowl, right? When you're talking about the 7th longest Super Bowl of all time, when they take it into overtime, they run it down. I mean, it was the same here. And I can see where Todd Bowles is coming from. You're thinking our defense is doing a nice job throughout this. The Chiefs have not been playing well. They had a couple of those big breaks, but actually we can do this when you're looking at it from a Buccaneers perspective. But you cannot give the Chiefs that opportunity. And we've seen it too many times that they're able to create a drive, a sustained drive, and they know how to win. Like when you talk about overtime, everybody's exhausted. Defensive line's exhausted. They've been chasing Mahomes around this whole time, and they are incredible. I mean, in multiple ways, Travis Kelce playing big, having Hopkins back. I saw this really great stat that said the Chiefs have scored 2 Super Bowls in the time that it's taken Daniel Jones to throw 2 touchdowns at MetLife Stadium.
That can't be real. That can't be real.
It's real.
That cannot be real.
He just got his first one this past weekend.
And I'm sorry, did Todd Bowles, I'm okay on Todd Bowles. Like he's not the greatest coach. He's not a bad coach. He's, great defensive coordinator. Did Todd Bowles not watch the dude, if you give the Chiefs the opportunity, if you give Mahomes the opportunity, they're going to win that game. Did you not watch them against the Bills and Josh Allen in the shootout? I think of when they played the Houston Texans in a playoff game before they won their first Super Bowl. And the Texans were up, I think it was 28-0, and that game is over. And the Texans gave them a little opening. If you give Andy Reid, Patrick Mahomes, and Travis Kelce an opening, they will find a way to win. That is why they are 8-0. You have to kill them. If you have a chance to go for the throat, you have to do it. And if you lose, you lose. And guess what? The Bucs lost.
Now, I kind of feel like at the same time, I'm talking about the Kansas City Chiefs being inevitable, and I kind of do feel like it's that way. When you watch them play, you kind of think they probably got this, no matter who they're playing, because we're just so used to it. Are they boring, though? Are they boring?
I don't see how you can think winning is boring. I mean, I think people get tired of the winning, but watch that game last night.
Because they're not the same sort of team, though, are they, Phoebe? They're not the same team that is just going to throw it 45.
They were a pretty good team.
I'm not saying they're not a good team. I'm just saying, are they boring?
Look at that throw to DeAndre Hopkins on the scramble. He is triple covered, and he comes down beautifully with it. I mean, There's highs and lows. Mahomes, he gets injured. You think he's out. You think that's it. I mean, again, you're thinking back to Super Bowl versus the Eagles. He's injured, and then he makes this big, massive run. I mean, because they win in different ways, I don't think it's boring. I mean, look at who they've got out. They're missing Rashee Rice. They're missing, Juju Smith-Schuster. They're missing
Hollywood Brown.
Yeah. You've got, Xavier Worthy, first almost touchdown. They almost lose. You think, oh, that's it for him. But because they're able to find all these weird and wonderful ways of winning. Yeah, it may not be as flashy and that magic that we're used to seeing, but man, they're doing a terrific job and they're winning. And at the end of the day, that's the hardest thing.
Yeah, and I completely agree with Phoebe. If you win 30-24 in overtime, that game is almost over. Patrick Mahomes comes back from an injury. DeAndre Hopkins shows up on primetime national TV with 2 touchdowns. Looks like DeAndre Hopkins from 2017, 2018. If you put up 30 points with Patrick Mahomes on primetime television, that's a thrilling game. And it'd be different if they were the the San Antonio Spurs from the 2000s with Tim Duncan. It was fundamental NBA basketball, and it got a little boring after a while, unless you appreciate, like I do, the beauty of the hardwood. Or even, the Patriots for a few years where it was a system type of offense, the early part of the dynasty, the first decade, it was mostly defense. They were going to kind of run you down and win on a field goal, 17-13. That is not the case. This is the Kansas City Chiefs team that's still one of the highest scoring offenses. And to Phoebe's point, they're so creative. I think from a football purist standpoint, the fact that Patrick Mahomes and Andy Reid can keep doing this week after week is a total testament to just how talented they are. And I have no problem with success. I have no problem with money. And I have no problem with a team that finds a way to win.
Well, speaking of, a team that finds a way to win, you need the players to do so. And as we mentioned before, DeAndre Hopkins has come in, productive game for him. Travis Kelce as well, the first 35-year-old with 14 catches in a game, 14 or more catches in a game. I mean, it isn't the same Travis Kelce. We don't need to necessarily get into it, too much. He's not the same Travis Kelce, but he is someone that is producing. And at the end of the day, production is key, isn't it?
Yeah, and look, the Chiefs are known for someone that stay ahead of the sticks. Look at this game on Monday Night Football. How many times was he sacked at, 10 plus yards back? You're in third downs, these third and longs. Kelce is the guy he's looking for. It doesn't matter how many reps he has or what his play has looked like so far this season. He is still on the same page as Patrick Mahomes. Whether you're talking about that little whip route coming out or that little sit and he turns the right way, right at the right moment, he is that guy, and they have that connection that is undeniable. When you talk about the greats of quarterbacks and tight ends, your Brady's and Gronks, they have that same connection, and that's what's so key. If you look at it, what makes a successful offense? You've got obviously a coordinator, great quarterback, usually some sort of tight end or go-to body, and a great pass rush. Here they've got Chris Jones in this situation from that interior piece, but they have the piece of the puzzle to be successful.
Having DeAndre Hopkins step up in that game, that is the big takeaway from that game, because Travis Kelce post-game, he's not talking about Mahomes or we got the win or we went in overtime. He's praising DeAndre Hopkins because he knows they cannot do this again. They cannot become the first team in NFL history to three-peat without a number one wide receiver, a go-to wide receiver, because that takes so much pressure off Travis Kelce. Travis Kelce's not getting 200 receiving yards and 3 touchdowns. He's given 100 receiving yards and maybe a touchdown. He's a good blocker, and that's what Kelce does right now. He is the veteran. They have to have someone like D-Hop, and we saw classic throwback D-Hop last night. If you're a Chiefs fan, if you have a bet on the Chiefs winning the Super Bowl, that was a huge game last night for DeAndre Hopkins.
We'll go into a bit of the schedule and what they've got coming up and whether they can be undefeated in just a second. But, if you are an offensive coordinator, a head coach, a defensive coordinator that is facing the Kansas City Chiefs over the next few weeks, Phoebe, what makes them so hard to beat?
Is the different ways in which they will set you up, right? I mean, they've got great opening scripts. Their first 15 is always phenomenal. And they're able to come back from setbacks. So whether we're talking about, again, those big sacks that normally you wouldn't see. I mean, Vita Vea was in the backfield so much. If you're looking at what they're able to do, they'll show you the same thing multiple different times and then run something totally different on it. Yeah, they ran a reverse that got blown up a little bit, but actually they'll come back to something else. So you have to, when you're game planning for the Chiefs, they give you so many different things to look at and so many different plays off of similar formations. How do you then install that to your team and say, well, actually, let's really just focus on this, or let's focus on that? There's too many things and too many people in which they can hurt you.
Well, look, the Patrick Mahomes, he did roll his ankle again. It has to be said that he rolled his ankle again, and there is it does look like he's going to be okay going forward. He says he's going to play going forward. That is going to be a consideration, obviously. They're going to try and, I suspect, make sure that he doesn't scramble so much to make it worse. Let's look at some of the games that they're playing, right? You mentioned the Bills earlier. Now, that is probably going to be the one that, when we're talking about can the Chiefs stay undefeated, that's going to be the one that we're looking at. They've got Steelers on Christmas Day as well, the Texans coming up as well. Looking at these games, let's answer the question, Phoebe, do you think it's realistic that the Kansas City Chiefs can stay undefeated?
I don't think it's realistic they can stay undefeated, and truthfully, does it matter? Do they need to stay undefeated? Because what they've proven is all we need to do is win in the postseason. 100%. So I don't think they're really thinking, oh yeah, we need to, maybe they get that bye, which will be so huge for them, but the Bills are going to be probably the biggest challenge of those 3 teams that you mentioned. I think the Bills are on a roll right now. They're going to test them in different ways.
And they're really going to want to beat the Chiefs as well.
There is so much history there.
And it's in Buffalo. You're doing it with Buffalo and the
What's
Bills
that
Mafia.
crowd going to be like?
Oh my
Yeah,
gosh,
no,
I'm so
that's a
excited.
fantastic game.
It is. And then the Steelers, I mean, they are getting better, right? They've been picking it up more in the second half. Russell Wilson has been terrific for them. You've always got the conversation around that defensive line. And then, to be honest, I don't feel the Texans are the same team that we saw either week 1 or the end of last year. And I feel like they're less of a threat across the board. CJ Stroud is really struggling at the moment. But that Bills game, I think, is going to be really key to tell you who are the Chiefs against a really good team.
You think the Bills can beat the Chiefs?
I want the Bills. Can I be biased like that? No, I think that this is the matchup we're always looking for. And I love that this game is later on in the season. You know, we saw the schedule. You had the Bengals playing the Chiefs earlier on. They thought that would be a good game. Ravens, we thought that would be a good game. This is going to be a game of two teams who have very clear, although they're not great identities, very clear identities. And I think this is the matchup everyone wants to see. If it wasn't for Mahomes, Josh Allen would be the one that everyone's talking about, right? With the magic that he creates. But because Mahomes is Mahomes, he's always going to get that front runner conversation.
And you know what's quite exciting as well is that no matter what happens in the Chiefs-Bills game, there is a distinct possibility. You could argue like likelihood, actually. There's a distinct possibility this isn't going to be the last time we see those teams face each other. And that's what gets
Hopefully
you excited.
not.
Hopefully
Yes.
not. Okay, so you're going to go with a no. The Kansas City Chiefs cannot stay undefeated. Brian.
They can do it. There's two answers here. And I said earlier, why not? They are the team to do it. They are the only remaining undefeated team. Number one, you're playing an extra game. Number two, Patrick Mahomes' health is paramount to everything else. Right. Travis Kelce's health. He's 35 years old. He's an old guy. What if in a couple weeks, old guy for the NFL? I'm older than Travis Kelce. What if in a couple weeks, Travis Kelce has an ankle issue? You're keeping him out for a game that you don't have to win. They don't need to go 17-0. They need to be.
They don't need to go.
It doesn't
will
matter.
they go? Will they go? Will they go?
They will not go 17-0.
Oh, here we go.
They will not go 17-0. No one has done it before. It's so hard, and the only team that's ever done was the Miami Dolphins. And
Well, the Patriots were 17-0. They lost to the, or not 17-0, I suppose.
They weren't 17-0. They were
16-0. Yeah.
That's my point. You add that one extra game, and so that you're already doubling down on the difficulty, on the odds of that. I look at that Steelers game. I think they beat Buffalo. I look at that Steelers game. I believe it's in Pittsburgh on Christmas Day. It's a Netflix game. Whole world will be watching that game. That's where I think they lose. It's almost impossible to go undefeated in a 17-game season, but if there's a team that can do it, it would be the Kansas City Chiefs.
Ooh.